For all of its exotic trappings, science fiction is best understood as a commentary on contemporary issues. This quote was from 1985 inside Paul Boyer's book, By the Bomb's Early Light, American Thought and Culture at the Dawn of the Atomic Age. It dissects the impact of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and how they ushered in a new age of American culture from 1945 to 1950. The quote specifically speaks to how contemporary issues affect our population and permeate across all forms of culture, such as media. And we've seen this before, as any good film student knows, American cinema was inundated with a plethora of science fiction films in the 50s, from Invasion of the Body Snatchers to The Blob and so on, that have come to be interpreted as an allegory on the spread of Soviet communism. You have an entity devouring and controlling people, removing any kind of personality or individualism, making their body no longer theirs, but grasped in a kind of social ownership by a giant monster. Sounds familiar? Welcome to Stranger Things. Let's take a look at how Stranger Things has been influenced by past and present American culture. Spoilers ahead for Season 3. Cultural anxieties. Given its storytelling and writing issues, Stranger Things does a good job fusing culture and horror together to really dig into people's fears. This third season can be interpreted as a derivation of Cold War American science fiction, with covert Russian infiltration and the mind-flaying of Hawkins' citizens. Oddly enough, it is set in an age where the grasp of communism has significantly weakened. Protests, violent uprisings would lead to the fall of nations in 1989, with the Soviet Union officially dissolving on December 1991. So if Stranger Things is not necessarily a reflection of the age it's a part of, perhaps it's a reflection of the age we live in. Whether intentional or completely by accident, Stranger Things is a political allegory. It speaks to the anxieties in Western society, most prominently in American society. The show speaks to issues surrounding government corruption,
a call. I mean, what more do you people want me to do?
Undercover infiltration by a foreign entity, spying,
What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?
Do I have to go through this again?
I see them.
increasing divisiveness on issues such as economics, security, rights, and freedoms.
Thanks for coming by.
I'm not doing it, Larry.
These are all themes spoken to in the show, but you would think I'm talking about modern life. Every year since the 2016 presidential election, Chapman's University has created an infographic that summarizes a survey that asks Americans about their biggest fears. As you can see, government corruption and foreign conflicts are among the top of the list, with different issues on environmentalism and economics throughout as well.
They lost their jobs to the mall and blame me for helping make that happen. Now,
Although the Duffer brothers have repeatedly denied allegations that Mayor Klein is in any way a representation of Trump, it's kind of difficult not to see the similarities. The light blonde hair, the eccentricity, the scandals, especially ones involving Russians. Yeah. Aspects of the show also speak to the importance of free journalism and media. A strong voice from the press is a fundamental pillar to democracy. We can't have reputable journalists being repeatedly shut down, threatened, labeled as fake news because they don't agree with a certain agenda. Tom and the news writers constantly shut down Nancy and Jonathan, eventually firing them. While Nancy and Jonathan are portrayed as heroes, the rest of the news writers get enslaved by the mind flayer.
you bitch.
It shows that writing science fiction and horror can stem from more than getting a good scream out of the audience. Horror can be much more deeply rooted. Stranger Things has extrapolated people's concerns and exaggerated them into something truly terrifying. Horror and relevance together make a powerful cocktail, especially when that horror can be right under our noses without us knowing. Although the third season may not be the most well-liked of the series, it does form contemporary thematic resonance and touches on important ideas. Consumerism. The show is also a tribute to the rise of modern consumerism throughout the 80s. Flashy brands, new movies, new products, all receiving some spotlight in the show, highlighting the 80s as the pinnacle of brick and mortar consumerism. Heck, the biggest focus of the show deals with how the arrival of Starcourt Mall affects Hawkins and its citizens.
I mean, I know everyone loves the mall, but how many small businesses have closed since it opened?
On the one hand, Mayor Klein insists that it creates prosperity and happiness for the people of Hawkins. It helps Hawkins become a center for more goods and services to flow through, generating value for its citizens.
They all love the mall. It's helped our economy grow, brought in new jobs, and just...
But then you also have consequences such as closures of local businesses and the loss of locally made products, families losing their main source of income, and of course, we have to point out that the mall is also a secret base for Russians developing a superweapon. People's livelihoods are at the mercy of the mall more than ever. Of course, the parallel between the mall and today's consumerism is in digital and technology. Like how the mall is changing the way Hawkins citizens live and consume products, digital is changing the way we consume goods. Digital is at our fingertips for everything. Groceries, clothes, electronics are all at the push of a button. It's making it easier for multinationals to become multinationals, forcing smaller businesses to be on digital in order to be relevant. There's almost something to be said about hyper-consumerism. The citizens of Hawkins don't just go there to shop, they socialize, eat, watch movies, making consumerism a part of their identity. They don't buy goods because they need to, but rather because it's socially imposed on them.
You've never been shopping before, have you?
Going to the mall is cool, it's new, it's hip. And today, digital has ramped it up even further. You had products like the Amazon Dash, which was a product whose sole purpose was to help you order more products. You have the Amazon Alexa and Google Home that buy things for you just by the sound of your voice. Consumerism is increasingly being pushed on us through tech by making buying simple, convenient, and most importantly, a part of who we are. I think the show goes beyond more than just consumerism is bad or consumerism is good. It shows the need for significant checks and balances and increasing self-awareness in a free market economy. The mall has overtaken Hawkins as its centerpiece of its society, but only because it was allowed to. Capitalists will argue that a free market is self-correcting, but in practice, it's hard to see it happen immediately. The mall creates prosperity, but not without a cost. It creates value, but not without disparity. People with small businesses are not going to simply be able to create better, more competitive businesses right away. You need to be able to facilitate a free market economy and a functioning society together. Preserving culture. The last theme I want to talk about is really the struggles of coming of age. But what I want to actually talk about is how it ties into messages surrounding embracing change and the preservation of culture. Many of the characters struggle with growing up and becoming adults in different ways. We can read into it as a commentary on how a community or society should handle change. Steve and Robin come to this realization that hanging on to the past is unrealistic.
Are you still in love with Nancy?
No.
Why not?
I think it's because I found someone who's a little bit better for me.
They are no longer in high school. What used to give them a sense of value no longer exists.
It doesn't matter. The point is this girl, the one that I like. It's somebody that I didn't even talk to in school.
Steve was the popular kid whose sense of self-worth was through the approval of his peers. Robin's value was external as well. She felt like she was worth nothing, an outcast, because her peers rejected her. But that's all gone now. They are removed from the social setting that gave them their sense of value.
Maybe because Tommy H. would have made fun of me, or I wouldn't be prom king. I mean, Dustin's right, it's all just a bunch of bullshit anyways.
For Will, he suffers because all his friends are moving beyond a life of purely playing Dungeons and Dragons in Mike's basement. While he's stuck reminiscing about a past, his friends are evolving, causing Will to suffer. So Steve, Robin, and Will not only realize that hanging onto the past is unrealistic, it's detrimental. Only when they move on and accept the cultural shift they are in are they somewhat at peace. And of course, it gives us the best ending the show has ever had, showing all the characters moving on and embracing change. The Byers are moving out of their house. Eleven is coming to grips with losing her father. As a cultural metaphor, it shows how idealism about the past might actually be harmful. Being engrossed in reverting to how things were hinders acceptance and progress. But it shows that tradition is also very necessary. Knowledge of the past, knowledge of how things were done before, is how they defeat the mind flayer. The show begs the question, to what extent culture should be preserved? What aspects of culture should or should not be preserved? In many cultures, resisting change tends to have negative consequences. It is important to understand that culture doesn't ever really go backward organically, not that I'm aware of at least. But if that's so, why do we work so hard to preserve traditions and symbols of the past? Because that is equally important. And not learning from the past and learning about where we come from can also be detrimental. I'm not going to give any more parallels to real life right now. I think I've done enough of that. Take away what you will. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Hey everyone. If you're still around and like what you saw, please subscribe for more. Hit that like button and comment down below. Everything helps. With Stranger Things, if there's one thing to take away writing-wise, it's that learning to write theme and stick to it is incredibly important. Thank you to all my new subscribers and viewers. Hopefully you stick around for more and find something worthwhile. Cheers.